with Create React App, which is a super handy way to create a brand new React app from scratch that is pre-configured with some pretty common settings that we won't ever have to mess with in this class. So we get our package.json, we get our getignore. Now static.css and static.html, those are dwarf underground. So those are put in there so you can turn them into React later. So those are not part of Create React App. There's a public folder with a fave icon and index.html. This is the one and only HTML in the whole project, and we never really need to touch it. We're going to touch it for one little tiny change. Let's just take a look at it. Okay, it's an HTML file, groovy. Down here we see div with an ID of root. Cool, that's already there. But it has a title of React app, so let's change that to Dwarf Underground. And our tab will say Dwarf Underground. But did you see that? It changed as soon as I saved the file. It actually refreshed the browser for us. The development server we're running with yarn start actually refreshes the browser automatically every time we make a change. So we'll see that again here in a sec. So that's all we ever need to do to this HTML file. We'll never open it again. Now we're all JavaScript all the time. So in our source folder, that's where all the JavaScript lives. That's also where we'll put stuff like JS and images oftentimes. So index.js here, we'll also never touch this. But let's take a quick look at it, what it's doing. It's calling React DOM render, putting the app component in there, and replacing root. Right? The other thing we need to do to get this to work.
Because you said that every single function inside React is usually in its own file, right?
Every component. This is not a component. So this is just some JavaScript. Our components we name with capital letters. So we have app.js here. This is a component. We were using that component in the other file, but this is what actually defines the app component. So we see some import business, whatever that means. We see the actual component, then we see some export business, whatever that means. We're going to define that very shortly. But right now, it's got all this stuff that we see on the page here. This is our app component. Notice it says to get started, edit source app.js and save to reload. Let's try that out. Let me just hide this here, throw this over here. So what if we change welcome to React to welcome to wherever you are? That was the name of an NXS album. There it goes. And it changed as soon as I saved. It actually refreshes the browser for us, which is pretty awesome. I don't actually want any of this nonsense here. So what I'm going to do is just actually delete all of this JSX except for the div itself. So keep that outer div there, but get rid of the rest of it. I'm just going to throw Dwarf Underground in there to make sure it worked. There we go. Now I'm down to just Dwarf Underground. If you open up your dev tools, it'll probably warn you. Logo is defined but never used. So that logo, the spinning React logo there, we're importing it, but we're never using it anymore. And we won't. So go ahead and get rid of that line. Get rid of the line that says import logo from logo SVG. And while we're at it, find logo SVG in the sidebar here and just delete it. Just delete the file. We're not using it. Don't forget to save app.js or it'll explode. So it's also importing a CSS file. Let's have a quick look at app.css. This is all the CSS that was needed to make that default page. We don't need any of this. Just get rid of everything that's in app.css. Don't delete the file and don't stop importing it. Just get rid of the contents. We're going to replace it with our own CSS. Are you supposed to what? Yes. Yeah, yarn start opens this. Yarn start. It'll open a web server on localhost port 3000, and it'll automatically open a browser tab. Yeah.
I'm still doing yarn install. I'm getting unexpected errors.
Okay.
Oh, it doesn't work unless it...
Okay, what was that? Oh, change to guest Wi-Fi? Okay. Yeah, every time everyone's trying to do it at the same time on that Wi-Fi, it's just so terrible. Yeah, maybe try the guest Wi-Fi if it's not working. Yeah.
It says React scripts is not recognized as an internal or external.
Okay, you definitely ran yarn install, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a look at it in just a sec, okay? All right, so now that I've changed these few things, I just cleared out my my CSS. I replaced my component with just one line. Now this is my whole React app pretty much right here in this file. This is my one component. It's got one thing in it. And now it's all the way to the left because I got rid of the style sheet. So I'm just going to add a commit message here, remove boilerplate. I'll commit that. I'll go ahead and push it. You should be able to push because you forked the repository, so it'll be your own copy of Dwarf Underground.